Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. If you've been with me before, thank you so much to the new subscribers. That last video I did on Friday was, got a lot of interest in that, and I really appreciate it. I'm glad to have you on board, and let's keep it going. Interesting. I'm not going to read on this because I think it's going to become the energy is going to develop more in the near future. But man, oh man, did MAGA go off behind Barack Obama in Canada with Mark Carney. He was there to speak for an engagement. But on the one hand, it was just amazing to see these two world leaders, you know, the civility, you could tell they genuinely like one another. But man, did MAGA go ballistic talking about the Logan Act, and Barack Obama was there. It's for some nefarious reasons. No, the man still has a lot of pull. Spirit has talked about a council or something that will take shape to help the U.S. dig its way out of a lot of this. So we'll be looking at that later. But I know many of you had your eyes, peeled on that as well. And thank goodness Barack Obama is becoming more visible. I think we will continue to see him be more visible, especially as we approach next month, June, when he has the official opening of his Presidential Library Center. Woo-hoo-hoo! Is that going to be a time, for the meltdown, right? The Trump and all of his, his cultists. But anyway, today, let's take a look at what's going on in Virginia. We know, like how did the Virginia Supreme Court, and many legal experts did not expect that at all. They thought that the Supreme Court was going to uphold it, but notice that the Virginia Supreme Court handed down that decision right on the heels again of SCOTUS, doing what they did with the Voting Rights Act. I think that had a lot to do with it as well in terms of why Virginia Supreme Court tilted. But now we're seeing calls for Abigail Spanberger, governor, clearly, and keeping in mind that Virginia does have a majority in the General Assembly, Senate and House, state Senate and House, they have a Democratic majority. So we're seeing a lot of calls for, okay, if this is what they want to do, let's fight fire with fire. As the assembly, we can put through an amendment and a state constitutional amendment peeling back the age, the mandatory retirement age of state Supreme Court justices. That would force a bunch of them out and basically reappoint others, right? And get those maps back. Now, I know the timing on that would have to be boom, 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 but let's take a look. I feel like there's some energy behind that. And clearly Virginia voters, to literally, this was not just something that the governor, as we've seen in other states, this is not just something that was cooked up, and by the leadership and then without voter input. This was what the voters decided that they wanted. So Spirit, will we see what will be the outcome of the Virginia's redistricting map? They're going to go to the Supreme Court, we're told. Not sure about that, but let's take a look. Spirit, what's trying to come? 4 cups. Yeah. I'm not sure. I just don't know that we'll see a favorable result from the U.S. Supreme Court. Spirit, will the U.S. Supreme Court rule on the Virginia map based on the lawsuits that have been filed? Will the Supreme Court rule? 2 of Wands, possibility, even though they don't want to. I think that's what that 4 of Cups was about. They really don't want this to come their way. Will they rule? Will SCOTUS rule? The Wheel of Fortune, the 2 of Swords, dissenting opinions. Will the majority hold up the Virginia Supreme Court's ruling? The decision to dismantle the maps. Will SCOTUS, in a dissenting opinion, 2 of Swords, conflict, Wheel of Fortune, the destiny of the vote, of those seats, those 4 seats that are in limbo? Will SCOTUS rule against it? Page of Cups, Knight of Cups, Ten of Wands. I don't think that they will issue a favorable ruling. The Knight of Cups and the Page of Cups, this is the momentum behind it, the will of the voters to make them do, to even get it to the in front of the Supreme Court. But the Ten of Wands, I think they're going to find a way in a dissenting opinion. Two of Swords, the Supreme Court is not going to be they're not going to reverse the Virginia Supreme Court. So going back to this other fight fire with fire, Spirit will the Virginia State Legislature enact an amendment to shift the state Supreme Court. Will they enact an amendment and put that power back to uphold that vote? Will the state legislature in Virginia, the General Assembly, Democratic led, will they put forward an amendment, whatever it is they have to do? I don't know all the policies and procedures, but will they do what they have to do? The Ten of Wands comes back at the bottom of the deck, uphill climb. Will they do it? Four of Wands, they're gathering and they are in sync. Queen of Pentacles, I feel like that's Abigail Spanberger. The Devil, dang it. There is a reluctance, you all, to go that far. That's part of the Dems quandary right now, is the idea that you're going to have to, break bad, as it were, with everything that's going on right now. Going through things procedurally, legislatively, through the court system, like still continuing to take the high ground. I think there's a perception there. Spanberger and members of the legislature in Virginia do have some concerns about appearing to have, fight fire with fire, but in doing so, going over to the dark side. They do feel chained or constrained to a certain extent to do things as they would normally. Will they come out of that? Will the people's voice rise to the point where they have to come out of that? The Six of Swords, this will not go away. That is the voice of the people. The Six of Pentacles, notice those sixes coming out. Sixes are building momentum, building energy towards something. And the Six of Pentacles is very often a card of negotiation. So I do think that while some of the powers that be, Spanberger on down, legislators, with that Devil, there may be some reluctance to go that far, to buck the system that far, to go over what typically the courts, especially if what we saw the Supreme Court says, no, we're not going to do it. We'll let the state courts ruling stand. And then to go against the will of the courts, right? Which typically is how they do things. That's I think why we're seeing these sixes, because they're going to have to come back around to the people. Something has to be done. Something has to be negotiated. Ooh, upside down. And the Lovers, a decision made to unite and uphold the will of the people. So bottom line, Spirit, will that map, the will of the people, what they voted on, will that redistricting map in Virginia get approved? Wrong, however, whatever the method is, will it get approved? The Nine of Swords, and Strength. Hold on. Will it get approved in time for November? King of Wands. Five of Wands. Somebody's fighting it. That's attorneys. I don't know if that's the state attorney general for Virginia. King of Wands, Five of Wands. That's somebody who spearheads and supports Virginia breaking the rules, creating new rules. It's fight fire with fire. And the Hermit. That's time, though. That takes time. But we do have that Strength card. You all, right now, and we know how this goes with tarot or any other divination system. Right now, this is not a slam dunk by any means. But based on the will of the people, that's really what's carrying this through, because leadership in and of itself, going back to that devil, Spanberger on down, much respect. But there is concern about how far do we go in fighting fire with fire? Are we willing to actually, just break all the rules and establish new rules and do what we have to do? There's going to be increased momentum from the people to do that. The strength card, and also I get that this is a timing element. Strength is ruled by Leo. July, we know that July is going to be an incredible month for many, many reasons, astrologically and otherwise. But I think something between July and September, the Hermit is ruled by Virgo. So, and all this happens in November. Sometime between July and Virgo season. Two of Swords. How do we do it? And Judgment. And the King of Swords. And the Seven of Wands. I don't know. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you all. Based on how the cards are falling, I don't know if Virginia is going to be able to swing this in time for November. That said, I don't think this is over. I think that there's enough momentum and the will of the voters to not let this slip. That's simply the fact that a court on some technicality completely canceled out a vote. That's not going to ride. Something will be done about that, but the energy just didn't come down strong enough to say that the governor, Abigail Spanberger, and the legislators in the General Assembly in Virginia is going to be ready to completely go off. I think right now there's a tendency to want to go through the channels, and the channels are blocked up. All right, let's keep going. Let's wait and see what happens with that. Talking about fires and fighting fire with fire. Y'all, something's up with these wildfires that the mainstream media is not really covering. I'm in Florida, as many of you know, and so there was a lot of news over the weekend about this incredible wildfire through the Everglades that, kept going and spreading, was far out in the western part of the state, went as far east to close down parts of access to the Florida Keys. That's huge. And over 5,000 acres and counting, going across the Everglades, though. And this is where it gets interesting. And this isn't just Florida. We know that there was in Tennessee, right behind everything that happened there, there was this huge, Henry County, the huge fire of the plastics plant. People were like, ancestors not so pleased with you all. Then when I'm looking into it, doing a little research, lo and behold, we got wildfires as we speak going on, taking off everywhere and has been in recent weeks in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. What do those all have in common? The South, where a lot of all of this is happening around voting rights and stripping away voting rights, right? Here's what I'm going to ask. Two things. On the one hand, I feel like this is spiritual, I feel like there is a spiritual component to this, that the spirits of the ancestors, the spirits of the indigenous people of these lands, going back to, the Everglades, like people are like, wait a minute, how is there a wildfire on swampland, right? In particular in the Everglades. So is there a spiritual component to this? Is there an ancestral component to this? Is this, the other side sending some messages like, we're tired of this and we're about to, make some shifts. On the other hand, there's talk about, is this being done deliberately to make way for AI data centers? Now, clearly not in the middle of the swamp, but hey, as it relates to Florida. But again, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, like all throughout the South where these fires are happening. Huge, in Georgia alone, 55,000 acres, you all. And I'm talking recently, 55,000 acres because of wildfires in Georgia, right? AI data centers. In many places, we know that where they have gone and tried to convince people to let them build those centers, they've said no. People have said, no, we're not going to sell our land. You can't build it here. You're taking up our electricity, our water. You know the deal. But we also know that right now, in terms of the market, the stock market, what's holding up the market right now? What's the only thing keeping the market alive right now? AI. Spirit. Are these fires more spiritual, or are they being manufactured? We'll call it that. Are these fires more spiritual in nature, or are they being manufactured? Is this a rising up from the other side, or is this some nefarious going on to try and reclaim land? We have the Four of Wands. Talk about fires. And I'm drawn to the fact that, and I hope you can see that in that image, she's pregnant, she's birthing. Typically, the Four of Wands is a card of marriage, commitment, celebration, new homes, movement, growth. Is this AI push? Queen of Wands, Seven of Wands, and the King of Cups. Please show me major arcana, Spirit. If this is from a spiritual aspect, if this is ancestral or indigenous people, ancestral, the Nine of Cups, the Five of Cups, a struggle, an emotional struggle with what people want, and the Five of Wands. All right, so let me go in the other direction. Is this being manufactured because of business interests and greed and the need for these data centers to go forward no matter what? Five of Swords, how do we do it? Six of Wands, pushing to make it happen no matter what. Six of Cups, impacting families and people and changing the dynamics of these lands and these places that are now being burnt down. Show me major arcana, please, if this is being manufactured so that these data centers can go up. Ten of Swords and the Tower. And the Hermit. Okay. On the one hand, I'm not going to rule out, I still feel that there's a spiritual component to this. Just because this feels that Nine of Cups, that the ancestors don't want this. The Queen of Wands, this feels like Mother Earth on fire, right? And notice even that sort of, I hope you can see that sort of ancestral image there, the coming together. So there is a spiritual component to this. Very disappointed. Earth being very disappointed. The mothering aspect in fire. Being extremely disappointed at what's happening to her lands. But the reasoning behind it, or the impetus behind it, I think that there's something going on. It's too widespread and it's happening too fast, especially in the wake of, we know, the need and desire and determination to build these data centers, because again, that's what's propping up the markets right now. I think there's something to it. We'll continue to look at that, and tell me what you think. I'm interested in your comments on that one. It's too much, and again, there's so much going on. The media is not covering it, but keep your eyes on that. It's too vast. And it's happening too quickly across this whole swath for it to just be coincidental. And so you saw that tower, right? Wiping out swaths of land with the idea of, because remembering as well, FEMA, government resources to rebuild, to sustain, to help where this damage is occurring. Like, where's that money coming from, right? All right. Oof. All right, you all. I'll talk to you a little bit later. By the way, want to announce, because I've had a lot of requests for it, and I'm not putting it on my website because I don't have enough production. I made a small batch of my Mojo oils. I've only got 50, And so I am going to make those for sale. If you are interested in them, you can email me, touchedbytarot@gmail.com. And I'll tell you how to go about getting it. All right. They're going to be $25 a bottle. I didn't put one in front of me. I'll do another post about that. But I just wanted to put it because they're going to sell out like that. When I did my mojo, I do them in small batches. And when I do them, they've got gemstones and herbs, and I put my, as the old folks say, I put my foot in those oils. And it's about mojo. It's about your energy. It's about protection. It's about love. It's about passion and success and motivation. I got a nice little mix going on in there. So if you're interested, reach out, touchedbytarot@gmail.com, and we'll go from there. All right. I'll talk to you a little bit later. Stay safe out there. Chin up. Really, you know, coming from that heart, right? Coming from that heart. I hope you had a good Mother's Day. I hope you respect and however you mother, pets, plants, kids, loved ones, communities, however you mother, male or female, however you mother. I hope that you feel good about that and you spread that love in your heart. Shoulders back, sky above, always, and earth beneath us, right? All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.